So once again, welcome to our DNS4EU stakeholder group meeting. My name is Magdalena, and I'll be host of today's session. I'm glad that I'm here together with my colleagues from Whalebone, who will guide you through today's session. Just to provide you with the agenda for today, we will start with the insights from the public service presented by my colleague Roman. Then we will move to the threat intelligence part. We will cover lawful filtering by my colleague Martin. Then we will find out from my colleague George what are the insights from the member state preparedness. And last but not least will be our CTO Robert, who will share with you few words about the vision of the strategy, and then we can discuss topics that you would like to. Of course, if you have any questions in the meantime, there is a chat on the right side. So feel free to type any questions you would like to know the answers from us. And we will try to respond to them either during the session or at the end of the session, or we will come back to you later on. So that's it from my side. I guess that we can start to cover the topics. So I'll kindly ask my colleague Roman to share his presentation and his thoughts. So Roman, please, floor is yours.
Okay, hello, good afternoon. So give me a second. I'm gonna share my slide deck. Okay, so just let me do it like that. Okay, hopefully it's visible for everyone. Okay, so let me start. So my name is Roman Silhan. I work as a site reliability engineer at Whalebone, and my primary focus is on DNS4EU public service. So let me first describe what that means. So most of you probably know that we built a sovereign cloud of public resolvers. They are deployed in 14 different EU countries. So here is the overview, and it started in June, and so far we notice that the most utilized locations are in Germany, France, and Netherlands, so the whole Western Europe, and it's logical that those are the most used, the others a bit less. So I mentioned only these three as the most important. Let me go to the other slide where I wanted to capture what is the usage, which we can see in the last few weeks. So there is a discrepancy between business days and weekend days. So I made them in two different calculations. So usually during the business day, our daily volume of queries is above 2.2 billion queries per day, and in a peak hours, the throughput is about 39,000 QPS. So that's around like lunchtime and so on. And based on our calculations, which we use like 12,500 queries per day per user, we estimate the daily number of daily users about 180,000. During the weekend, the throughput is a bit less, so it's about 1.7 billion queries, so still quite high. And in the peak throughput, we can see around 23,000 QPS across the whole cluster, and that estimates about 103,000, 6,000 users. Yeah, I see question about the unique users. That's there. We'll calculate this as 12,500 queries per day per user, and that's our calculation we are using based on some research. I'll go to the next slide. So here I try to capture some interesting details about the protocols used in our resolvers. So the most used unexpectedly is the UDP protocol, followed by the DOT. So in my opinion, those are mostly smartphone users. And the third most used is the DOH, followed by the TCP, which is just a fallback mostly. So 83%, that's UDP. I also took metrics or some statistics from the IP protocol, and based on that, majority, like 98% of all the queries coming over IPv4, that's just for interest. And like category-wise, as you probably know, we have different categories. So the most used is the protective solution. That means only malware protection or like phishing and all these threats protection. Unfiltered solution, that means there are no malware blocks. So it's a pure resolution. Let's do about like 23% of users, followed by the protective plus advertised blocking. So the advertised blocking category is also quite favorite among our users. Here are a bit of numbers regarding latency. So DNS4EU is publicly sharing the metrics from Perfops, so you can have a look there as well. Our average latency across the EU countries where Perfops has his probes, we have about 13.2 milliseconds. I also try to check another numbers like median, so that's about 7 milliseconds, and 95th percentile, that's about 41.6 milliseconds. So almost everyone has around 400 milliseconds at most, but usually it's much better. So that's from latency point of view. We also calculate the availability. So based on the performance measured from Perfops, our availability is 99.98% right now. So these are details from January. So those are pretty new. And I believe we are trying to make it as reliable as possible. All right, here I wanted to mention a few of our achievements, a few of our good and well done tasks. So as a part of a DNS4EU deliverable, we calculated the benchmarks, and based on that, we provided and performed some optimization and also planning and others. We try to implement as much as possible the best practices for DNS resolvers. So just few of them, like query minimization. So we are sending just the query towards the root servers and TV level. We are not sending the whole query. We are using like the open source core, which is the Not Resolver 6, which recently came up with a stable version. We support both IPv4, IPv6. We manage the high availability by Anycast and by the RPKI signed routes. So we have like all these 14 servers advertise their own Anycast IP address to find, so the users can find the closest server. We have the DNSSEC validation and all these protocols, as I also showed before. So UDP, TCP, DOT, DOH, and DOQ, which should come in this quarter of 2026. Right now, it's in experimental testing as a new feature for Not Resolver 6 and others. One good achievement, which we are very glad we were able to meet, became an official DOH provider in Chrome. So in Google Chrome, since version 144, for EU distributions, you can find it in a scrolling list. And actually, we are in the process of doing the same for the Mozilla Firefox. So hopefully this will be successful as well. And last but not least, we are also seeing like still rapidly growing adoption in last weeks. So we saw a big spike once the DNS0 ended. So we adopted most of the users from them the time, and we are still seeing more and more users coming in. Okay, it's fair to say nothing was always like idle. So we also had some incidents. We received some feedback. So I choose a few of them. So for example, we had a problem with SSL certificates in certain location. For the DOH and DOT endpoints, we also noticed we had incorrect routing in one location when we adapted a new BGP peering. So the routing went in a wrong upstreams. Also, we received some feedback that some manual steps may be too complex or too, let's say, not understandable for general users. So that's also some feedback we received when we launched. And also that we received a lot of complaints that some alternative servers are not able to or that our domains are not able being resolved via DNS4EU resolvers. And based on the investigation, we identified a couple of alternative servers who actually intentionally blocked our resolvers from responding. So how we try to fix that? So for this SSL certificate, we are introducing a new renewal process, and of course some improved monitoring and alerting. For the BGP, yeah, we implemented more resilient configuration and a strict routing rules. So we always choose the correct upstream for the alternative queries. Yeah, for the manual or for the implementation to devices, we introduced like a configuration profile for iOS, and we are preparing some more manuals, like the Chrome native implementation is one of that. And regarding the alternative server, we are actively looking for contacts in the admins. So we are approaching them, asking them for unblocking or for the reason why they are blocking and whether they can change it. And most of the time we are successful. It takes some time, but in the end, we always were successful to unblock our resolvers and provide the answers to users. So yeah, I'm at the end of my part. So here's my email address. If you have any questions later, you can contact me there or use the form on the web page. We will receive it as a ticket and we can take care of it. Okay, that's all from my side. I'll have a look in the questions in the chat right now, but I'm handing over the word to the other presenter. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Roman, for your insights, for sharing your presentation. As so you've mentioned, there are some questions in the chat. Some of them were answered, but some of them were not. So if you can check it, that would be great. So now we have covered the public service topic, and now we are moving to the threat intelligence part. So I would kindly ask my colleague Martin, who is a threat intelligence lead, and he will guide you through his topic. That's for you. So Martin, the floor is yours, and we are looking forward to your presentation.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Martin Kuruc. I'm threat intelligence lead at Whalebone, and we'll be talking about regulatory blocklist compliance for ISPs within the DNS4EU as it was part of Work Package 5. So, what's on our agenda for this presentation? First, some basic discussion of what the regulatory blocklists are and why are they important for ISPs across Europe. Then the landscape or regulatory landscape of the EU member state across the EU. then the challenges and wins faced by DNS4EU in researching and later, of course, implementing these regulatory block lists, and also DNS4EU's role within the EU's regulatory landscape. So now, first question, what is a regulatory block list? Is in the DNS4EU's use case a list of domains which is enforced by government to be blocked within the borders of the country. On the internet, it means organizations offering services within the country itself have to comply with the governmental order to block the domains as mandated by the government. The blocking cannot overlap the two institutions operating outside, not operating within the country. So, for example, I'm just using examples here. Polish regulatory block list will not affect German ISPs and vice versa. Of course, there are exceptions, for example, EU-wide regulations, maybe bilateral treaties, but usually as a whole, it's just within the borders and jurisdiction of one country. On the right-hand side, as an example, I'm here showing essentially a list published by Ministry of Finance of Czech Republic, where they are publishing the list of illegal internet games or gambling sites as of 26th of January 2026. On the bottom right-hand corner, you can see these the part of the list as it is listed, and it is our role and our objective to bring this list as active blocking measure for ISPs within DNS4EU. So now, within the European Union, why regulatory block list? First, well, there's a wide range of coverage. Regulatory blocking covers extremely large range of areas. It's not just one type of blocking that can be essentially seen, but it ranges from illegal gambling to copyright all the way to sanction enforcement, as mentioned before. Also, not every EU member member country carries out the internet block list in the same way, which means that there is a large state of decentralization within the EU itself, as different countries have different regulations and legal frameworks on which these block lists are applied or not applied in some cases. So our solution here is to create a usable regulatory framework for ISPs within the EU, where they can rely on automatically updated system of these regulatory block lists for the states that mandate it. In this, I'm going to talk more about the landscape of itself, but this would mean, for example, if an ISP from, let's just say, Poland would want to expand to Slovakia, all they have to do is essentially flip the switch on their admin portal, and they can be compliant with Slovak regulations as well as Polish before. So now, for the regulatory landscape itself, we observe three distinct types of EU member states internet regulation on the DNS level. That is, of course, non-mandatory regulation, decentralized regulation, and centralized regulation. For the non-mandatory regulation, this does not mean that a country does not enforce any type of internet or DNS even regulation. What it means that ISPs or providers, middlemen, are not expected to comply on a mandatory level with DNS level blockings. For example, they do not publish regular updates to, as you could see at the beginning, illegal gambling lists, for example. On the bottom right-hand side, I'm showing a page from a German government website discussing blocking on the internet, where they say that they comply with the net neutrality on the internet, unless they are essentially beholden by, for example, treaty or EU mandate that they should block something or a court order. In Germany, for example, exception to the blocking rules, i.e. no mandatory block list, is only implementation of EU-wide sanction measures. Of course, another exception is court order when either a provider or the internet service provider themselves or telco receives an order to block something based on a decision of a court of the country in question. In this regard, and I'm going to get back to this point, it usually means that only the ISP within the country or provider within the country has to block the specific domain or domains per the court's order. I'm onto a lot of them, but I will get back to this point as there are some recent news that are on a different level. Now, for decentralized regulation within the EU, some member states have multiple block lists that are managed by separate institutions, which unfortunately do not possess the visibility on other block lists maintained by other institutions. These block lists oftentimes are mandatory, but there is no central source of truth that would point any ISP or any organization to one specific or multiple specific block lists that they can ingest and provide to their end users. Also, different organizations offer different levels of access to the block lists they maintain. Some levels of access are, I would say, obvious. For example, thirds or security governmental organizations oftentimes offer a limited or even like on a need-to-know basis access to malicious lists, which they can still enforce some organizations to block. But due to the nature of these lists, they are not public. Others do not offer public lists due to, for example, organizational rules, but not because the list itself is too much of a, I would say, sensitive information. This leads to muddy transparency of the regulation framework and a lot of effort expended to reach each organization and to gain sufficient intelligence on every block list that's necessary within the country in question. And now we're moving to the, I would say, best kind of the regulatory lists, and that is centralized regulation, where usually one organization maintains all applicable lists within the country, or at least one organization can authoritatively provide information on these block lists within the country of question. On the right-hand side, I'm showing a page from Danish regulatory list, where there are multiple different regulations listed on one page, all ranging from copyright and illegal gambling sites to be blocked, all the way to enforcement of the EU sanctions. These lists are usually public and easily accessible, but when they are not public, they are usually under purview of the central organization with clear description of their function, and usually it is clear which organization is maintaining these lists or list. Now, as I mentioned, there is also these regulations are applied to ISPs. They are applied within one country, or if the ISP chooses this way, in multiple countries. But we have encountered a court order by the French jurisdiction to block specific domains as they were in breach with the law within France. This court order, of course, we have complied, as we are beholden to observe law in every EU country, and we cannot choose which we will comply to and be in compliance with and which not. But due to this being aimed against the DNS4EU public service and not as a regulatory list within just France for the ISPs and telcos, means that as we are compliant with this order, we are unfortunately currently blocking all of these domains across the DNS4EU public service, as we are currently lacking the ability to block only these domains on the IP addresses within the essentially French IP ranges on public resolvers. Of course, we are working on bringing this functionality, but unfortunately, up until then, they will be blocked across the DNS4EU public service. Of course, we are committed to full transparency here, and the list of blocked domains, alongside with the reference to the specific court order mandating block of these domains, will be published on the DNS4EU website for the better information of all end users of the DNS4EU public service. Now, as I discussed, multiple different angles for the essential regulatory landscape of the EU, I would like to present some challenges and wins of the work package 5 of every partner of the DNS4EU consortium that has been working on bringing intelligence on these regulatory lists. We essentially were facing all the same challenges, I mean, like from the nature of the goal, and that is to bring one unified platform for the decentralized and oftentimes less than visible information that is floating through the governmental organization. We were faced with unresponsive organizations. Some outright refused to talk with us, or said that due to their internal regulations, our use case is not enough for them to share with us the regulatory list in question, as we are, for example, not ISP nor telecommunication company. Or there were contradicting or obsolete information, as some of the government websites unfortunately were not updated, or the information has been scrapped. And unfortunately, sometimes even the government workers had old information, and essentially, which forced us to rely on our research and other different information which we gained through meetings, email exchanges, and calls with the governments across Europe. Unfortunately, this led to obtaining of limited intelligence as of time of project handover in December. Ireland, Portugal, and Slovenia. I have asterisks for Portugal and Slovenia because since then we have managed to gain further intelligence on both Portugal and Slovenia, especially I think in Slovenia when it comes to the third security-based regulatory list, which has been since then in progress, and in Portugal as well for other regulatory lists. In Ireland, unfortunately, we've been faced with the lack of communication from our counterparts, and unfortunately, up until then, we are not able to move forward with bringing the regulatory compliance within the Ireland. Despite these challenges, we have managed to gain sufficient intelligence on 24 countries out of 27 EU member countries, and which essentially brings us to the role of DNS4EU for these 24 countries. That is, first, aggregate all of our available regulatory list applicable to the ISPs within the EU. This means that, as I said, it's easy for ISPs, for example, to expand, to have something that cuts through extensive bureaucracy. Also, it offers member state specific compliance. There is not just one specific big list that you just turn on. There are multiple. There is granularity to it, which means that the Polish, for example, ISP does not need to and will not have active different regulatory lists from, for example, Hungary, Czechia, and so on and so on. Of course, automated compliance, which means ingestion of the source data happens automatically and does not rely on human input or potentially error. And of course, continuous updates. This is based both on research and potential report, because sometimes the organizations themselves change. They may change, for example, which kind of block list they publish, or they may merge different into one big one, which of course we catch, but it may take some time. So the moment we receive report from the ISP, we can get immediately on the case and rectify any missing information that may happen due to these changes. So that would be probably all from me on regulatory landscape and DNS4EU.
So it's it seems we have lost, we have lost Martin and possibly also Magda. But luckily it happened at the very end of Martin's presentation. So I believe before they get back, I hope they will get back. We can move on to George. And George, your part. So the stage is yours. I hope you will be able to share the presentation.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. And unfortunately, I cannot. Not until he stops sharing.
Frozen, yeah. So let's let's wait for.
I'm not sharing anymore anything, so
Martin. Okay, Martin, you are back.
I'm not sharing anything, as I can see from the. So let me. I'm gonna disconnect and reconnect. Maybe that will fix the issue.
Yeah, probably because I'm just saying that someone is already sharing their screen. This is why.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's
George.
Yeah.
George, go for it.
I'll put it up right now. First of all, thank you everyone for being here. This is going to be my presentation about DNS4Gov and our engagement with all member state governments, as well as with European agencies, institutions, and bodies. And I think this is probably the most difficult slide to actually explain. So what is exactly my role, who am I, and what is DNS4Gov? My name is George Buhai, and I've been leading the DNS4Gov initiative for roughly about 2.5 to 3 years now. And my goal is basically engaging all European governments, either talking about national cybersecurity centers, national coordination centers, CSIRTs, as well as national CERTs, understanding for which one of them does it actually apply, that they're not only a forensics agency that goes in and whenever something bad happens, they try to investigate and see what the damage was, but agencies that are truly committed to bettering their overall national landscape and talking about protective national DNS projects, PDNS in short. DNS4EU, I would expect that by this point, everybody knows about DNS4EU and what it is. It's a project that is co-funded by the European Commission and that has at its core aim this need and this common activity and focus to try to protect every EU habitant. Now, as a habitant that's using the service, obviously, most people are just looking for an out-of-the-box solution that they can just install on their device and have it work and get that protection so they can have a safe online experience, basically. When it comes to governments, however, things change. They want to own that information. They want to perfectly monitor, store the information, be able to analyze it and act upon it. So obviously, we had this drive to develop DNS4Gov, which is a product that comes with access to a user portal that has tons of features and access to a multi-tenant environment where everything can be segregated, it could be aligned, and it could be standardized depending on that nation's desire. I would also say that it's incredibly difficult to actually understand that every EU country is different. Every government is basically different. And by that, their demands are different as well. Imagine that we have national centers that are completely autonomous and that have access to writing up their own policy, writing up their own budgets, and so on, and others that are underneath a certain Ministry of Defense, for example. So their options are quite limited. It's hard to envision a research project or a cross-country or cross-sector project where every sprint is basically having to go through government approval before it kicks in. So there's massive differences country to country. And DNS4Gov is also what the European Commission tasked us with to make sure that we continue this DNS4EU greater project as well. Think of DNS4Gov as the enterprise edition of DNS4EU, if you will, on a very simple format. Um, Moving forward, what does it mean to actually onboard DNS for Gov? So I'm going country to country, basically talking to every government into protecting all public ways of life, basically. So going into every sector, whether we're talking about public administration, healthcare, education, and so on, we're trying to go in and protect everybody at the same time. So I should say that on a architecture level, it's very important to understand that whenever we have one of these projects going into execution, we normally have a national cybersecurity authority at the top of the pyramid. So these are the people that would um, own the product, would maintain it, and would have it work for their constituents. There are differences with regards to who they're providing the service to, but ideally what we came up with as an architecture that is both customizable and easy to deploy at scale is to have it deployed vertically through ministries. And here we have the example of a certain Ministry of Health, Internal Affairs, and Education, because obviously they're present in all European countries. But it's also the ones that mostly take up about 65 to 70% of all public workers. So at this level, we're talking ministries, but underneath each ministry, you'll have regional levels, you're going to have local levels, and you're even going to have remote employees that would benefit from the service while being outside of the network. So we're looking at protecting people. So the way that we construct every one of our projects is by trying to defend people, not necessarily the numbers of devices that an institution might have, but the people that are actually behind it. And every one of our roles is structured behind that premise. One other thing that is deployable and differs country to country and region to region in some cases is the fact that within a certain ministry, wherever you have multiple regions within the same country, you would have individual policy allocation. Meaning that imagine that within a single school of a region of a country, you would want to have different policies for students as you would for teachers, different allow lists, different block lists. You would want to perhaps have internet completely shut off during exams for the students. These are remote use cases, but more often than not, traveling region to region and meeting with so many public authorities, so on, we understand that needs differ, not only nationally, but regionally, and in some cases, even endpoint to endpoint. So we had to make sure that within our execution, we treat this individually as well. So that for every subgroup, or even every potential end user, you could have your own individual policy. The way that this is constructed and applied relies solely on the top authority, be it at a local, regional, ministerial, or even national level. So everyone can choose to build their own Christmas tree, let's call it, with all the institutions adhering to specific practices that they want to use for that structure of the country. And this, of course, can be designed with our help. I would say we have enough experience by now. The network that we constructed over the past 4 years is almost at 15,000 individual people. More than 17 countries that went into POC, and we'll go into the numbers later on. But I just wanted to help everyone understand that if you have a use case that you'd like to discuss, we're more than happy to take it up with you. Moving forward, hybrid deployment models. This is a way that, again, we're trying to make sure we listen to the market and what they want, and the fact that not every institution has, for example, data centers on site. They don't have cybersecurity experts. So in that case, it makes complete sense to them to just adopt a managed model that would be our cloud deployment model. Others have it on-prem. They want to manage it. They want to own it as well. So they want to definitely see everything that goes on within their network and on device basis. So We give out exactly what everyone wants and make sure that they can then scale it vertically or horizontally how they see fit. And now I'm going to start talking a bit about the macros of the European Union as of right now. And I'm going to build my talk based on a comparison between the POCs that we've conducted so far in this awesome project that we're part of. And I'm comparing it to the NIS2 transposition tracker as it's presented by EXO. EXO being, of course, one of the entities that we're in touch with, one of our supporters and partners, together with the likes of ENISA, ECCC, EUCERT, and so on. So on the left side, you have the transposition tracker as of September 2025. And in the next slide, we're going to see exactly where we are today. But this is just to give you an idea of what happened within the last 4 to 5 months. So as you can see, NIS2 was supposed to go into full operation as of October 2024. There's a huge delay behind it because obviously there's a need of standardization between countries, and this is very difficult to obtain. But you will see that the countries that adopted the NIS2 transposition are actually the same almost countries that went into POC with DNS4Gov on a national level. So obviously, when you're looking at the Eastern European flank, for example, you definitely see an interest in trying to seek that level of protection for both institutions and constituents. As things develop, and we will see this as to where we are right now, it kind of goes all over the place now. So countries are really picking this up. They're going into the momentum altogether, either using funding opportunities that they have available or national opportunities. So it really differs, but the idea is that we are now growing to about 80% of full coverage on a EU basis, and we're going outside of EU as well. There's active interest from non-EU countries as well. But of course, we're mostly following the same route that NIS2 has. And it was a nice comparison to see that we're kind of going in hand. Altogether, in Europe right now, I would say that more than 90% of attacks still rely on DNS technology. So this is why DNS4Gov is highly sought after by both national institutions as well as local ones. Just as early as last week, we were present in France conducting new POCs for education as well as public administration, and we will continue to do this in other countries as well. These are the success numbers. So 20 plus national cybersecurity centers. So that's 20 countries, basically, in the European Union in later stages of the onboarding cycles. 18 POCs within these institutions conducted so far. And then we have our first customers already. On the threat intelligence side, we are using MISP as the exchange platform for the threat intelligence feed. That's where we are collecting national data for threat intelligence. And of course, we are extremely active with conferences, workshops, participants that we are reaching, and especially on-site presence to help them all on board and then replicate, go to scale, involve the national center in monitoring their progress, and try to make it a real national PDNS project every time. This is the last slide that I have. These are the actions that in my line of work, at least, really consolidated our presence within 2025 and moving forward into 2026. I will just refer to the EU Cyber Resilience Act, which obviously sets up a EU level detection and response of capacity, and NIS2, which I just spoke about, and the countries that transpose to it. And maybe the fact that it forces ministries and national authorities to adopt controls is a hard work. But again, the need for standardization, then helps multiple countries go into this national PDNS stage at once. And by doing that, they're basically not alone. So we've had this experience as well, where we took multiple national centers, put them together in the same room, and we saw a conversation unfolding about the actual common threats that they were facing, as well as the fact that they basically all wanted to get to the same level of maturity when it comes to this, both technically and operationally. And of course, critical infrastructure resilience. This is on everybody's lips right now. And we see a lot of national centers actually being reformed so they can act better and faster upon it. I will look into the questions, but if you need to contact me, please feel free to do so. My colleagues will share my slides as well with everyone here present. So if you want to send me an email, give me a phone call, and I'll be more than happy to put up a session where we can discuss this in more detail. Thank you very much for your time. And if there's anything I can answer to right now, I'll look in the chat in just a minute. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, George. I'll take over the sharing. And let me just reconnect, because the application didn't have rights to share the slides, so that's a disappointment. I'll be here in a second. Apologies for that. Okay, I'm back again. Sorry for that. I hope I'll be able to get you to my presentation immediately. And
yes, we can see it. I can confirm.
Thank you, George. Okay, let's go for it. So first of all, thank you for being here with us. I believe like many of you have been to many stakeholder group meetings and have been providing feedback, have been asking questions, and I appreciate it very, very much. I will start with a timeline that I have presented. I'm very confident that I have presented this timeline on the first stakeholder group meeting to outline the project expectations and where we want to be at which year, at which milestone. And I'm happy and honestly slightly surprised, I have to admit that we were able to follow the timeline with very small adjustments, very small changes, but actually the team really delivered according to the timeline. And that's I mean, with these long, big projects, it often it may come as a surprise. And we are now in the phase 2026 plus. So we are on our own. There is no additional. There is no funding from European Commission. The project and the funding was 50% for the service and the product setup during the 3 years, but there is no funding whatsoever. We are on our own as Whalebone, running the service and doing the business development on all the different products. So let me just very briefly provide very briefly. I don't want to spend too much time here. Personal expectation on where we will go next and what is the expectation. You have seen a status from George on our progress with what we call DNS4Gov or DNS4EU for government. So here I am honestly, I'm extremely optimistic, and I was super positive about what we did with governments and for governments during the project, and it was to some extent it even surprised us. I have to admit that we expected to be more drawn towards the cooperation with internet service providers and telcos. But what we discovered here with governments and with the opportunities, what we can bring to governments, how to protect the public organizations, it's mind-blowing. And the demand is still here. We are progressing, yet we are speaking of governments. It's not always extremely fast. Let me put here, although we are speaking about DNS4EU and about EU, I would also put here, like to put here an external perspective on what's happening in US. In US, a NIST is preparing to publish, and I believe they'll publish it super soon, a new special publication. The code name is 881. Revision 3, which is important. There are some past revisions, very old ones, and I'm very confident that the world will follow the recommendations in this special publication. And the special publication is basically all about protective DNS. How the protective DNS should be used, why it should be used, what are the expectations that it should do, malware filtering, phishing filtering. It should provide network-wide protection, visibility, also recommendation towards DNSSEC, DNSSEC usage, encrypted protocols usage, etc. It's a great piece. What I would really recommend to read, and I'm sure that even if the other countries will not adopt NIST, which is not really expected, but they will definitely inspire from this material, and I'm very confident that we will see adoption of protective DNS within governments quite fast. Speaking of governments, providing this quote that we will see protective DNS deployments worldwide across most of the countries. More and less major, it will differ in 5 to 10 years in a huge majority of the countries everywhere. So that's about governments. Speaking of what we did and what we are still doing, and we continue with DNS4EU for telcos and internet service providers. The growth is rather, I would say, like steady, continuous, and quite clear. We have at the moment about hundreds, local internet service providers running resolvers and providing DNS resolution based on DNS4EU technology, based on those resolvers. And we are, and we have a handful of tier 1 telcos, all within EU solely. So there are also some outside EU that use the logic and the information that they are able to protect on the DNS level towards their customer base as a brand promise, stating that they really care about the customers, about the users that are connected to the internet via their network. So And we see that this grows. There is more demand step by step. This gets more attention. And what is super interesting for me is that although this is not really like visible, this does not have as much attention as the public service, the DNS4EU for public. It by far has the biggest impact. Speaking of number of users that we protect here together with ISPs and telcos, those numbers are significantly bigger. They are just not that visible in the media, on social networks, and they are not discussed as much because most people, especially the tech people, they speak about the public service and they are like interested in what can it do, how fast it is, how reliable it is. Those are like interesting technological topics, but the impact is hidden here with telcos, ISPs, governments as well. The public resolver is an important piece of the puzzle, but does not actually bring as significant impact. All right, so that's for telcos and ISPs. We will continue, and we help ISPs across Europe. For the public part, I'm very, very, very excited and positive about the team at Whalebone and also throughout the consortium, really putting a huge effort into the public service. Although honestly, like business-wise, it's not a service that brings any revenue, but the commitment and the ownership of the team, looking at the service and really being committed and determined to deliver on our promises, it's huge. It's overwhelming, and I'm very happy about that. So we really we have like these like internal safeguards. People raising question marks and exclamation marks whenever they see that the resolver may not be private, may not be reliable, may not be secure, etc. So we are like guarding these promises, and this will continue. We will continue on providing the free DNS resolution. What we see as a challenge, very recent one, what Martin also mentioned, is that in the point number 3, we need to stay compliant with the laws and regulations of individual country. We are EU based. We need to follow the law. Yet in some cases it's quite difficult to be sure that we only enforce the law in the specific country, such as is now the case with the French court order. So for some period of time, we will probably we have to like affect also other people using the service, which we are very unhappy about, honestly. But we are looking for ways how to get it always limited, all the regulations only to the respective country, which laws we will and we need to honor. So this is a brief challenge, but we will get over it. And we would also, regarding the point number 3, also like to follow up with European Commission, because speaking about the laws, I have some doubts about their effectivity and about if it actually makes sense to block things like they do. And we would like to dispute this, although for the time being we need to follow whatever has been decided by the court. And we will be happy if we can onboard more people within EU, but also we are speaking about options to extend the footprint of the public service outside EU to other regions, or eventually even a global service, if there are good opportunities, if there are potentially good partnerships that we can build that we can build on, but not breaking our promises. To give you some more insight into what I mean with partnerships and potential sponsorships, etc. We see that the whole public resolver, DNS4EU resolver, it has some vibe, it has some media impact and visibility, and it will have. We can make sure it has, and it would be great if we can partner up with someone that can also see value in this to support the sustainability of the public service long term, or eventually to build own services, own products based on the DNS4EU public service, which I honestly believe it's very much possible. So to provide some insights of who may be such partners, what are the ideas that we have. It may be cloud providers, especially or primarily the European-based that are now like doubling down on the European sovereignty and data sovereignty. So we have like a very common topic there with them. It may be some security sensitive consumer brands, especially like banks, financial institutions. I don't know if I just like if I come up with like a first idea, it may be something like, I don't know, Revolut. Revolut is super popular now across Europe, and they need to protect their customers as they are like solely a digital brand. So it may be a good potentially a good partnership there. Or content delivery networks, CDNs and anti-DDoS providers. There are many worldwide, but there are also some specific ones targeting European market and being loud about European sovereignty. So this may be also a good partnership. VPN providers, many that are providing private access to the internet and may want to extend also security or some filtering options that we can deliver, yet keeping the privacy promise, which we can also do. Browsers, not just being listed in the browsers, but eventually like being the primary option for the particular browser, router manufacturers and others. And these are the ideas that we have, and we would be very happy if you have an idea, or if you would like to do something, not just an idea, if you would actually like to integrate, if you would like to cooperate, please spread the word, ask around, pass the word that we are open to such collaborations and happy to discuss them. I'll be more than happy to have such chats and understand how we can take the public service onwards. So thank you again for being here with us throughout the whole journey of setting up everything and running everything. It's now running. We are there. We go on. It's possible that we will continue with some updates and keeping you engaged. That's all being discussed, and Magda is driving those discussions. But really, I very much appreciate it, and I'm looking forward for some questions that I can now answer as well. All right, let me just go briefly through those questions. How does DNS4EU engagement for telcos play together with products like Whalebone Aura where protective DNS is bundled into? It's a great question, and thank you for the insight that you have, Andreas. So, in some countries, we see that Whalebone Aura is the premium product, and the baseline protection for the whole customer base may also be delivered by the very same resolvers. Yeah, so we can provide some baseline protection for everyone, and then some premium protection for paying customers. For example, this is one of the models that we see. Also, we have seen that some telcos eventually, when they already have a very good experience with the product, and they have a majority of customer base running Whalebone Aura, they may eventually decide to give out the protection to whole customer base and really make from the product to make it to a brand, rather to the brand promise. Yeah, and there's another question from Vasya. Did you have any contacts with Italian government about piracy shield blocking? No, not yet. Not yet, but we are researching that now. Honestly, yeah, looking into it now, how this affects us. I'm not aware about any contact from with the Italian government.
There's a discussion ongoing with the Italian Cybersecurity Center. From what I know, Agenzia per la Cibersicurezza Nazionale, ACN. I replied to that comment already.
Okay, thank you. Vasya, yeah, thank you very much. We'll keep you updated, and really much appreciated you being here, asking the questions and interacting. And whenever you see opportunity to get back to us, we'll be extremely happy if you do. I don't know if we have Magda here still.
We don't. I think she lost connection.
Okay.
But on her behalf, I think we can thank everyone for being here. And I just wanted to again emphasize that we will be sharing the slides after this webinar is over, so everyone will have access to all of our contact details as well. If they want to get in touch afterwards, if they want to ask additional questions and so on, we are more than happy to do that for you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Stay safe, and I hope we will be. I hope all your communication will stay private. So, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day ahead.